Every single day, we're presented with moments that test us. Someone cuts us off in traffic, a colleague criticizes our work, a plan we carefully made suddenly falls apart. These moments may feel small, but they're defining. They remind us of a fundamental truth. We don't always control what happens, but we always control how we respond. Think about it. Two people can face the exact same challenge, yet one sees an obstacle while the other sees an opportunity. The difference isn't in the event itself, but in the choice they make about how to interpret it. That choice determines whether they spiral into frustration or rise with resilience. Our lives are not shaped by circumstances alone. They're shaped by the meaning we give to those circumstances. And meaning is a choice. When we decide to assign meaning that empowers us instead of weakens us, we unlock the ability to move forward instead of staying stuck. Often, we give away our power without realizing it. We let external events dictate our internal state. A harsh comment ruins our day. A delay at the airport stirs up anger. A failure convinces us we're not good enough. In those moments, the power to choose how we think, feel, and act slips away simply because we didn't claim it. But when we pause and remind ourselves that choice is always present, something shifts. That pause creates space. In that space, we can ask, what response will serve me best right now? What response will keep me aligned with who I want to be? That single pause can be the difference between reacting and leading ourselves forward. The power of choice is not about pretending challenges don't exist. It's not about ignoring pain or disappointment. It's about acknowledging them, then deciding what to do with them. Do we let them define us, or do we define ourselves through how we respond to them? That's where transformation begins. When we choose courage over fear, gratitude over resentment, or patience over anger, we're not only changing that moment, we're reshaping the trajectory of our lives. Choices compound. Each decision is like a drop of water, and over time, those drops carve rivers, forming the direction of who we become. And here's the truth. Choice is freedom. It's the reminder that no matter how chaotic the world feels, there's always one thing that belongs entirely to us: our response. That's where our power lies. That's where life begins to transform. The way you see the world determines the way you live in it. Two people can look at the same situation and walk away with entirely different experiences. One sees limitation, the other sees possibility. The difference isn't in the world, it's in the lens through which they view it. That lens is your mindset. Our thoughts are not passive. They're architects. They build the framework of how we perceive challenges, relationships, and even ourselves. If you constantly tell yourself the story that you're not enough, you'll find evidence everywhere to confirm it. If you choose to believe that growth is possible, you'll begin to notice opportunities that once seemed invisible. The mind is like a spotlight. Wherever you aim it, that part of your life expands. Focus on problems, and problems grow larger. Focus on solutions, and suddenly pathways open. The external world doesn't always change, but your internal experience of it does. That shift is powerful enough to alter the course of your life. Controlling your mindset doesn't mean forcing positivity in every situation. It's about training your mind to look for what empowers you instead of what weakens you. It's about developing the discipline to direct your thoughts instead of letting them run wild, unchecked. A disciplined mind doesn't deny reality, it navigates it with clarity and strength. Too often, we outsource our mindset to the environment around us. If the news is negative, our thoughts follow. If people around us complain, we join in. But mindset is a responsibility, not a reaction. The strongest people are those who guard their thoughts as carefully as they guard their health, because they know what they think determines how they live. And it's not just about big moments. It's about the small repeated thoughts every day. The inner dialogue that runs in the background of your mind is either building you up or breaking you down. I can't do this. And I'll find a way lead to very different actions. And over time, those actions create two very different lives. The key is awareness. Once you become aware of your thoughts, you gain the power to redirect them. You can interrupt patterns of fear and replace them with patterns of courage. You can challenge assumptions that limit you and choose beliefs that strengthen you. With each shift, you take back control of your mindset, and with it, control of your life. Because in the end, mindset is not about seeing the world as it is. It's about seeing it in a way that empowers you to act. When you control your mindset, you don't wait for life to change before you change. You change first, and then life begins to follow. Emotions are powerful. They rise quickly, sometimes without warning, and they can overwhelm our ability to think clearly. But emotions are not enemies, they're messengers. They signal what matters to us, what we value, and what needs attention. The problem begins when we mistake those signals for orders we must obey. Anger, for example, is a signal. It tells us something feels unfair or out of alignment. Fear is a signal too. It tells us there's a perceived risk or danger. Sadness points to loss or unmet expectations. These emotions are valuable pieces of information, but they are not dictators. They do not decide our behavior unless we hand them the keys. Too often, we let emotions steer the wheel. Anger makes us lash out. Fear makes us retreat. Sadness keeps us stuck. In those moments, we are no longer choosing. We are reacting. And when we react without awareness, we often create consequences that outlast the emotion itself. Mastery of emotions doesn't mean suppressing them. Suppression only buries them deeper, where they fester and grow stronger. Mastery means allowing ourselves to feel fully, then deciding consciously what to do next. It's the ability to acknowledge the storm without being swept away by it. Think of emotions like the weather. You cannot control when the rain comes, but you can decide whether to stand in it unprepared or to bring an umbrella. Similarly, you cannot always control when anger, fear, or sadness arises, but you can prepare a response that keeps you aligned with your values rather than controlled by impulses. Developing this kind of emotional control begins with awareness. When you pause long enough to name what you're feeling, I'm angry, I'm anxious, I'm hurt, you create space between the emotion and your reaction. That space is where choice lies. That's where freedom begins to emerge. Once you create that space, you can ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Is this fear protecting me or holding me back? Is this anger pointing me toward injustice, or is it clouding my perspective? By interrogating emotions, instead of obeying them blindly, you transform them from dictators into advisors. And with practice, the relationship changes. You begin to trust yourself not because you never feel strong emotions, but because you know you can handle them. You know you can listen without surrendering control. You know you can respond with intention instead of reaction. That is the essence of emotional mastery. Habits are the invisible architecture of our lives. They quietly shape who we are, often without us noticing. What we do once in a while matters little, but what we do consistently defines our direction. Every choice we repeat becomes a brick, and over time, those bricks build the foundation of our future. Small actions may seem insignificant in the moment. Drinking a glass of water, reading a few pages, writing a single paragraph, or taking a short walk doesn't feel life-changing. But repeated daily, these actions accumulate. They compound into momentum, and momentum is what transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. The danger works in the opposite direction too. Skipping the workout, hitting snooze, choosing distraction over focus once doesn't matter much. But repeated daily, these small choices add up as well. Over time, they quietly erode potential, leaving us wondering why life feels stagnant when it's simply the product of unexamined habits. The truth is, habits don't ask for permission. They run automatically in the background, shaping behavior without requiring effort. That's why controlling them is so powerful. Once you align your habits with your goals, progress happens almost effortlessly. You don't rise to the level of your ambitions, you fall to the level of your habits. Building the right habits begins with identity. If you see yourself as someone disciplined, someone healthy, someone committed, you naturally choose actions that align with that identity. Habits are not just about behavior. They are about reinforcing who you believe yourself to be. Every small choice becomes a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. The challenge lies in patience. Habits rarely deliver instant results, and our culture loves instant gratification. But the compound effect of habits works slowly at first, then suddenly all at once. Like a seed planted in the soil, growth is invisible until one day the roots are strong enough to break through the surface. Control of your habits also means designing your environment for success. Relying on willpower alone is fragile, but creating systems that make good habits easier and bad habits harder is sustainable. The food in your kitchen, the apps on your phone, the people you surround yourself with, each of these influences your habits more than motivation ever will. Over time, the small choices that once felt insignificant become defining. The daily routines you control today determine the opportunities, the health, the relationships, and the success you experience tomorrow. Habits are not just actions, they are the silent force compounding your future. Human beings are deeply influenced by their surroundings, often more than we realize. The environment you place yourself in acts like fertile soil. Plant a seed in rich soil and it thrives. Plant the same seed in dry, toxic ground and it struggles to grow. The seed is you. The soil is your environment. The people you spend time with are one of the strongest forces shaping your mindset, beliefs, and behavior. Sit with those who complain and negativity becomes normal. Surround yourself with those who strive for growth, and ambition feels natural. Energy is contagious, and without realizing it, you begin to mirror the attitudes and habits of those around you. Places matter too. The spaces where you live, work, and spend your time either support your goals or sabotage them. A cluttered space creates distraction, while a well-ordered space promotes clarity. A gym nearby makes working out easier. A quiet corner for reflection encourages focus. Environments either pull you forward or hold you back. Then there are the inputs, the information, conversations, and media you consume. Every piece of content you take in leaves an imprint. Constant noise, fear-driven headlines, and shallow entertainment shape your thinking without your permission. By curating your inputs, you're not just choosing what you consume, you're choosing what your mind becomes. Control of your environment is about intentional design. Instead of letting the world dictate what surrounds you, you choose deliberately. You decide who you allow into your circle, what you allow into your mind, and where you allow your time and energy to flow. That design becomes a silent guide steering your daily actions. The truth is, willpower alone is fragile. Even the strongest intentions can crumble in a toxic environment. But in the right environment, change feels natural. You don't have to fight against constant resistance. Instead, you align yourself with surroundings that make the right choices easier and the wrong choices harder. This is why major transformations often begin with a change of environment. New friends, new mentors, new routines, or even a new physical space can shift perspective instantly. Sometimes growth doesn't require more discipline. It requires new surroundings that call you to rise to your potential. Ultimately, your environment is either shaping you by default or shaping you by design. When you take control of it, you stop leaving your future to chance. You create a space, a circle, and an atmosphere where the best version of yourself is not just possible, it's inevitable. One of the greatest sources of frustration in life comes from trying to control other people. We want them to think the way we think, act the way we act, and respond the way we want. And when they don't, we feel disappointed, angry, or powerless. But the truth is, simple control over others is an illusion. Every person carries their own history, beliefs, emotions, and desires. Expecting them to move through the world exactly as we do is not just unrealistic, it's unfair. Trying to bend others to our will often creates tension, conflict, and distance. Instead of connection, we build resistance. Instead of influence, we create walls. The harder we push, the harder others push back. This is the paradox of control. What we chase often runs further from us. The more we demand compliance, the less we inspire commitment. Even if someone gives in, it's usually out of pressure, not genuine willingness. That kind of control never lasts. What does last is influence. And influence begins with self-mastery. When you show up consistently with clarity, discipline, and authenticity, people notice. They may not always agree with you, but they respect you. And respect opens the door to influence in a way that force never can. Influence also flows through example. If you want someone to change, the most powerful thing you can do is embody the change yourself. People rarely follow words, they follow behaviors. A calm presence influences more than angry demands. A disciplined life inspires more than constant lectures. Example is silent, but it is persuasive. Letting go of control over others is not weakness, it's wisdom. It allows you to redirect energy from frustration to growth. Instead of wasting time trying to micromanage what you cannot change, you invest it in strengthening what you can, your own mindset, emotions, habits, and environment. When you shift focus from controlling others to mastering yourself, something powerful happens. The need to force outcomes diminishes, and people naturally respond differently to you. They sense your calm, your certainty, your self-leadership. And that draws them in not through pressure, but through trust. The myth of control over others hides the deeper truth. The only person you can ever truly control is yourself. And when you take full responsibility for that, you discover that influence doesn't come from domination. It comes from alignment, from example, and from the quiet strength of self-mastery. Every person carries a set of values, principles, and beliefs that define what truly matters to them. These values act like a compass pointing toward the life they want to live. But a compass only works when we follow it. Too often, our actions drift away from our values, and that gap creates frustration, emptiness, and disconnection from ourselves. When you say health is important but consistently neglect rest and nutrition, the misalignment creates tension. When you claim family as a priority but spend all your energy on work, the dissonance builds silently. Transformation doesn't come from saying what we value. It comes from aligning daily choices with those values. Living in alignment creates harmony. The moment your actions reflect your deepest priorities, you feel grounded, centered, and at peace. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency. Every time you choose in line with your values, you strengthen your identity and reinforce the life you want to live. Misalignment, on the other hand, drains energy. It leads to guilt, regret, and a constant feeling of chasing something that never satisfies. You can achieve external success, but still feel empty inside if your actions conflict with your true values. Without alignment, achievement feels hollow. The first step to alignment is clarity. Many people struggle not because they lack discipline, but because they've never defined what they truly value. They chase goals society tells them to pursue, only to realize later those goals were never theirs. Defining your values with honesty is the foundation for meaningful transformation. Once values are clear, decisions become simpler. Choices that once felt overwhelming can be measured against a single question: does this align with what matters most to me? That question cuts through noise and helps you live with integrity. Alignment turns confusion into clarity and chaos into direction. Alignment also builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. When your actions consistently reflect your values, you begin to trust your own word. You no longer feel divided between what you believe and what you do. That integrity creates confidence, and confidence fuels transformation. Transformation isn't about adding more to your life. It's about stripping away what doesn't belong. When every choice is aligned with your values, you live authentically, and authenticity is the soil where fulfillment, growth, and lasting impact take root. Every choice you make sends out a ripple. The way you think, act, and show up doesn't just affect you, it touches everyone around you. Just as a single stone dropped in water creates waves that spread far beyond the point of impact, your behavior and energy extend further than you can see. When you control your choices, your mindset, your emotions, and your habits, the transformation becomes visible. People notice when you respond calmly instead of reacting harshly. They notice when you remain consistent in your habits. They notice when you speak with clarity and live with integrity. Without realizing it, your example becomes an invitation for others to rise higher. Influence doesn't always come from words. It often comes from presence. A parent who models patience teaches their child more than lectures ever could. A leader who demonstrates discipline inspires their team more than motivational speeches. Influence is less about what you say and more about how you live. The ripple effect also creates momentum. Small shifts in your own life begin to open doors for others. Your discipline encourages accountability. Your positivity shifts the atmosphere of a room. Your resilience in the face of adversity gives others permission to believe they can endure as well. One transformation sparks another. What makes ripples powerful is that they move outward endlessly. You may never see the full impact of your actions, but they travel further than you imagine. A kind word can echo for years. A single act of courage can inspire someone to make a decision that changes their future. The impact compounds beyond your sight. The opposite is also true. When we neglect control of ourselves, we unintentionally spread frustration, negativity, and fear to those around us. Our lack of alignment becomes their burden. Recognizing the ripple effect is both empowering and humbling. It reminds us of the responsibility we carry in every choice we make. By focusing on what you can control, you don't just improve your own life, you create an atmosphere where others can grow. You model what's possible, and possibilities spread. Transformation becomes contagious not through force, but through inspiration. The ripple effect is a reminder that self-mastery is never just about the self. Every step you take to control your mind, your emotions, your habits, and your environment creates waves that touch family, friends, communities,